Okay, I'm here with my old friend Jackson Ling. Jackson, you handsome son of a bitch.
A little bit older, a little bit fatter, less hair. Yeah, we're doing okay. Looking good
I
yourself.
don't know, man. Yeah, you look pretty good, man. You're holding up pretty good, even with two kids on their way to adulthood. I understand. Is that right?
Yeah, that's for sure. One's already in adulthood. My oldest, just finished her junior year at UNCW, so she's 21 and about to finish start her senior year. So my son's graduating, God, I guess in a couple of weeks. So he's
Okay.
also off to UNC Wilmington. So
All
we're
right, done a good job there, Dad. Well done. That's
about
awesome.
about to be empty nesters. So another journey.
Well, good, man. I'm so happy you decided to come talk to me. A few weeks ago, I approached you, and I did sense a bit of reluctance. Tell me about that.
I mean, I've seen some of your recordings so far, and you've had some pretty interesting people. I mean, I'm no Adam Green or some of the other folks. I'm just kind of a normal guy. Didn't know what anybody else would find interesting. So
Everybody says that to me,
yeah,
everybody says that they think their story isn't worth hearing. And I disagree. I think everyone out there has a cool path and has something that, especially as Vikings would find interesting to hear, Jackson. And I think, you're kind of one of those guys. I was thinking about you, um, and this might sound a bit abstract, but this is what I came up with. I'll let you react to this. You know that song, Mr. Brightside by the Killers?
yeah, I know some.
If that song was around in high school, it would be playing every time you kind of walked into a room, don't you think? Because it wasn't that kind of your whole thing, you just kind of had that good vibes deal happening most of the time.
I mean, that if that is your impression, I will take it for sure.
All right, well, what am I getting wrong about that? Let's wind back the clock for a second because I've known you since the beginning, like a lot of our, lucky enough to that be the case from a lot of us Summerfield folks.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone's so consumed with themselves and what they're working on.
Oh
So,
yeah.
not a lot of room to really think about what other people are like. So you only kind of have the periphery. But, how would you describe yourself, your high school self at this point in your advanced age?
My Hey, you're right there with me, buddy. So
Yeah, that's right.
describe myself back then. I mean, it's interesting because I haven't really thought about that time period in a long time. And then, you kind of started doing these podcasts and I started sort of re-remembering things that I had forgotten. Like when you were talking to Ryan and Darren, I remember the two cookies, one milk. I remember Brooks getting hit with the tray, Charlie James, I remember him jumping through that window to stop that car, whether I was there or whether I'd heard about it. And so I was just trying to go back in anticipation of this call, just to kind of think about where my head was at then. I don't know. I felt like I was, especially like through kind of sophomore through senior year, I was just trying to get out and be gone. I mean, I'm not wasn't mean to anybody or nice, and I probably had a good attitude, but I was in a sprinter start, ready to kind of jump out of school and start my life. Do you know what I
What
mean?
was that? Well, no, I don't think I do actually. What was driving that?
I mean, we all have our own stuff going on through high school, and you've talked about it a couple of times. None of us really truly know what everybody else is going through, right? Their own personal kind of struggles and stuff like that. And I think a parents' divorce and some other things that were going on. I was ready to be out on my own because, of course, I knew everything. Right? I've got two, like I said, that have one's 21. My son is a senior, and you can't tell him anything. He is also ready to just get out of this house and forget you,
Hmm.
mom and dad. I'm ready to go. I'm grown. And I felt like that was kind of my attitude in high school. I've there's nothing left. All the teachers and admins and my parents, they didn't know anything. I had learned it all. I was ready to go and get my life started.
All right, we got pretty heavy here. Pretty. Look, I'm glad that
As
you're
a
willing to kind of
moron.
go to these places. No, you know what? Listen, I want to just lighten it up for a second. I want to come back into this because I think it is
Yeah.
interesting what motivates people, especially in the mind of a teenager. And I do know what you mean.
Yeah.
What do they say? The smartest people on earth are 3-year-olds and 18-year-olds. The 3-year-olds have all the questions, and 18-year-olds have all the answers, right?
I've never been smarter.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
listen. Let's just bring it back a second because
Sure.
I do put some work into the preparation for these talks because you want to
Sure.
make sure they're worthwhile. When you put this out into the ether, you want to tell the Viking universe that you got something that they should, kind of carve out 30 or 45 minutes to pay attention to. So I did my homework. I've always considered myself to be close with you to a larger degree, Jackson, but I decided to go out my own, and I went to a AI tool called Copilot. Some of you may be familiar with this. And this is a true story. I said, all right, tell me everything you can about Jackson Ryan Ling from Greensboro, North Carolina. And I want to read you what it spit back, okay? And then I want to talk about this for a second. So here it is. And I'm reading from the page. Basic identifiers. Full name, Jackson Ryan Ling. So far, so good, right?
Yeah.
Approximate age, 46 to 47. Then it goes on to say exactly how old you are. Born November 1978. That makes you 13 days older than me.
Yep.
Current location, Holly Springs, North Carolina. Previous NC ties includes Greensboro, Summerfield area, Raleigh, and Charlotte. True? All true.
Yeah.
Now, last bullet point. Ethnicity. Buckle up. Listed as Asian American in public directory sources.
Yeah.
So explain that to me.
I mean, obviously the last name, it became this is probably well off topic, but in all of my professional career, a lot of it was through initial stuff was all through email. And that was one of my icebreakers is I'd show up to these meetings with these C-level folks. And it was a big joke to walk in because they didn't obviously expect me to walk in. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, so as long as we're telling off-color jokes, the thing that I would kind of use, and this was lazy, I know. Sometimes you be in Charlotte, you be in Raleigh, whatever, and you get to talking to somebody, small talk, and they go, "Oh, where are you from?" And then you say Greensboro, and they always say the same thing. They always say, "Oh, Paige," and I always wanted to pop those people in the nose one time. But then you get past that, and you go, "No, it's Northwest Guilford."
I never say Greensboro.
Did it happen to you?
No.
What? Why not?
I say, well, because I grew up in Summerfield.
Oh, that's even better. Good for you.
So I was in Summerfield.
I should have been saying that.
My mom lives in Reedsville. So
okay, all right.
My parents divorced, I think, at like 8th grade summer. My mother bought 20 acres in Reedsville and horses and cows. And I grew up, horseback riding and living out and half my time out in Reedsville.
All right. But listen, back to me for a second, okay? I wasn't knowing my thing.
Oh, my bad.
So yeah, sorry. Very interesting with the horses. I want, we'll talk about that. But I was on a roll. So back to. So I meet people and they go, "Oh, you go to Page?" And I was like, "No, it's Northwest." And then sometimes people would just love to go out of their way to shit on our school, and they say stuff like, "Oh yeah, one of those county directional schools. Oh, yeah, Northwest. You guys were the rednecks, bunch of corn-fed white boys, not a bit of diversity in the whole place." And then I would say, "Slow down. We got Trey Webster. We got Zulin Lowe, we got Akir Khan, and we got Jackson Ling." So take that. So that was, you ever just recklessly defend something that doesn't need defending from a emotional point of view? You can't explain.
I think, and this one thing I love about my kids' school here in this area is, I think our school was 1% diversity and that's cobbling together everyone. I think that's kind of what our class represented, but represented. Well represented though, for sure.
I think so. I mean, because you had some good personalities that were carrying the team. Brian Peralta had to explain to me what the Philippines was. So I guess that's more an indictment on the education that I thought was so good at the time. I shouldn't have taken Brian Peralta to explain that to me, but here we are. All right. So here's one of my kind of canned cliche type questions. And all it's meant to do is just kind of get us going here, right?
Sure.
We all have our own kind of version of how we were. And what is often surprising, let's say you bump into somebody after so many years, they'll tell a story about you and you cannot believe that it was you who said the thing or did the thing. And so your own view of yourself is always distorted, right? Because you have everybody else who's kind of taking that in a different way. So if you were to pick someone who wasn't that close to you and said, "Hey, tell me about Jackson Ling," what do you think that anybody in our class would have said to that
Probably
question?
a smart ass.
Yeah?
Very sarcastic. Yeah.
Well, I don't remember that. Give me an example.
I mean, it's just how it diffused everything by just kind of always being smart, making a joke, I think I was just always a bit of a wise ass.
What subjects in school came easy for you?
Oh man, I don't think anything in school came necessarily. School was not my best thing. I don't think if you remember, I actually went to summer school after freshman year.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we had it was honors English. We had one report to do that counted for like 40% of the grade, and I turned it in late, and she had warned us no late papers. and I ended up getting an F in honors English freshman year. And I had to go to summer school.
No, wait, who was that? Miss Kirby? No.
Freshman year, it might have been Miss Kirby. Yeah. It was like
Man,
our
Miss
first
Kirby.
research paper. And after then, I did focus. I buckled down because I really wanted to get off and go to school. Sophomore, junior year, I really like buckled down. And then once I got accepted to UNC Charlotte, all bets were off. I just had to graduate. I just had to walk. I think we had senior year. Was that when we had study hall together? And it was
Yeah.
Adam Green and you and I. And yeah, I think I only had 3 classes.
You were in study hall. I was there, but I wasn't with you. I mean, I was with you, but I wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like I was not studying in study hall.
I didn't study in study hall. None of us did. I barely showed. But I would say what interested me the most was history. You've talked about Mr. Johnson. Loved his class. We can talk more about him later. Obviously, I was in We the People, so Mr. Parrish was great. APUS, enjoyed that class. So it was the history and civics and politics. Those were the classes that I really kind of gravitated towards. Math was
Okay.
terrible. I had Mr. Yalk for math. I was not one of the smart kids. I did, algebra 2 and I was done. That's all I had to get through. So
So with that in mind, and you talked earlier about maybe just kind of wanting to get out of Dodge. What was the plan? Like if you were so hard charging to get out of Summerfield, forgive me, what was the goal?
and again, I want to preface it with I loved growing up where we grew up, right? I still love going home and, my sisters, my 2 half sisters that are going to Northern. Well, one's still at Northern, the other's at Charleston University. And love going home. It's always a special place. Drive by the high school, show my kids Summerfield Elementary, and then go by Laughlin on the way out to mom's. And but I was just ready to be out on my own. So nothing against the kids. I loved all the people we went to school with and everybody else. I was just ready to be on my own. And it was just going off to college, study poli-sci, maybe be an attorney like my dad. None of that worked out the way that I had it planned, but that was the plan.
Yeah, yeah. Most people don't know that your dad actually had kids after the age of 65, which is a bit unusual.
Yeah, he's a crazy person. Yeah. So my half sisters are the same age as my children, almost
That's
exactly.
wild, man. What a
Yeah.
what a what a mind trip for everybody involved, right?
Yeah.
Like that must be weird for everyone. No?
Yeah, it is. I think my stepmother is only 3 or 4 years older than my wife. So
Wow.
they get along great. They're in the same age range. They have kids the same age and plenty to connect with.
Well, I'm glad you're able to roll with it. That's quite the
Yeah.
dynamic. It must have been difficult for a time, I assume. But going back to your upbringing, I drove by Carlson Valley Road just last weekend.
Yep.
And I thought about you as I do every time. To me, one of the coolest things that you can count on, and there's such a sense of peace that comes from it. I'll speak for myself. When you leave the school and you turn right on Northwest School Road, and so far as I can tell, you come down School Road to Stanley Huff, and everything about that drive past your house on Carlson Dairy, and until you get to Horsepen Creek, everything about that, Shorty's gas station and all that, looks pristinely as it did 30 years ago.
Unchanged. You hit Lake Higgins, that bridge from Lake Higgins on,
Right.
and I'm back to the, I guess my parents probably are going to see this, but a 14-year-old kid walking to that gas station buying cigarettes for, for me and Tom Lawn, and they didn't care,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and it hasn't changed at all, and I'm like, that's where Rachel Isaacs used to live, and and on the same bus route, mixing the same bus route with Erica Adkins and Tom, and like I said, Rachel Isaac. I remember bus 249. Miss Mack was our bus driver. Yeah, all those things. You're driving the route to school.
Yeah. Well, there's just, when you go anywhere that you haven't been to in 30 years, everything's changed. All you can do is go, this used to be that used to be this was torn down and now the department's there. And that's just how the world turns. It is nice. It is nice to be able to take that drive and go, you know what, this feels exactly like it did, and there's a certain comfort there. And why were we stopping at Shorty's gas station to smoke cigarettes? Why are we doing that? Everybody was doing that. Why was that the spot?
Well, they were selling them to me, so that's why I stopped there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They were selling to me underage, so that was the hook. And I mean, obviously, I lived a block away from there. I mean, I could walk there. So, and for me, it was always on the way to school. So
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and that's where, you talk about this whole Vikings thing, and I hate to limit it just to high school because a lot of the kids we're thinking about, the ones we're talking about, it goes back to Summerfield Elementary, for me at least, because we moved from Greensboro, because I was going to school at Irving Park, and then we moved out to Summerfield, and I started in third grade at Summerfield Elementary, and so it was for me, it's that old stone gym at Summerfield. My brother was going to Laughlin, playing baseball and basketball and rec leagues and soccer. And then all of us going to middle school together, which was a ton of fun, and Heather Manigold was one way across the lake. Melissa Penley was the other way. Just growing up with all those kids in that area. That's what I remember a lot about, just all of us progressing and then all of us kind of going off together. It was a magical time.
Well, to that point, you shared with me recently some photos of your
Yeah.
class picture, and I had never seen these photos before. I think I'll probably send them out after this.
The elementary
But
school.
yeah, elementary school, second grade, third grade, fourth grade. It was
Yeah.
amazing to me just how many people I could pick out instantly,
Yeah. John
not even
Ray.
necessarily known them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Stevie
John
Hayward.
Ray and a lot. Yeah, yeah. Stevie Ham had a mustache then, I think.
He did. I wasn't far behind. I remember you giving me a hard time. You tried to get me to grow a beard, I think, every year of high school.
Well, that's why you got the cigarettes, because you were able to. I mean, I'm still working on it, man. I'm still working on the required testosterone to maybe one day.
I shaved for
I'll
this.
be
I
able
got
to.
some razor burn just even shaving
Did
for
you?
this. Yeah.
All right. I would like to say this. One of the unexpected and cool benefits about these conversations I was not ready for, but has been very heartening to me, was hearing from individuals who I had not actively thought about in all these years. And you just said Erica Adkins, who is the sweetest, and always was. But I'll be honest, I just haven't thought about her. But through doing this kind of stuff, people kind of reach out and you have a chance to reconnect. And I don't want to leave anybody out, but if I just think about Erica comes to mind, Amanda Shoemate, Tamesa Hicks, Austin Sharp, Kristen, I can't remember your maiden name, forgive me, but it's cool. It's just cool to have an opportunity to go, yeah, that's nice. It's nice to be reacquainted with some of these people after all this time. It really is. It makes you feel good.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it's made me think about, there was people that I kind of hung out with in middle school, and it was definitely a larger group. Some of the old Summerfield folks, and I'm talking like, you know, like I said, obviously there's always Tom, always Akir, yourself, Melissa Penley, Heather Manigold, Katie LaRue, Sarah Foy, Derek Foy, John Ray, John Hines, and all that, and then, as you go to high school, everybody does kind of break up a little bit, which we all experienced that. And of course, Adam Hodian from middle school, because our dads are still close. So
That's great.
yeah.
I love that. One of the questions that I'd like to ask my kids, I ask them, especially when I put them to bed at night, what do you think about a lot? And the reason I like that question, it doesn't lead them down a pathway of what do you think about that bothers you. It's not setting them up to kind of go into any kind of, dark space. And it's also not what makes you happy. It's a question that can be taken any number of ways. What do you think about a lot? And it can be quite revealing. I'll just ask you a version of this, Jackson. When you go back in time, I know you said you don't spend a lot of time thinking about it, but when you do, what does come to mind a lot more than other things?
I guess from what era? From high school, from that middle school
Yeah.
area?
However you want to take it.
I mean, from high school, man, I always think about the Barlows. I think about Patty and Brooks and everybody. His house was just like a magnet for everybody. That's where we would go when we would go from the Weaver Center and travel period back to the high school, and we'd all conglomerate there. And his dad had his little she shed. I don't remember that, but he ran power and air conditioning out there, and he'd come home from work and he'd hang out in his little shed. And the Barlow's house was just always fun and a safe place, and they were just the best people. They really were.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you said that. I think I probably answered the question the exact same way. Nah, that's great, man. If I could kind of bring you back to you, let's talk about, you move on from Northwest, you go to UNC Charlotte, you became a IT kind of an account executive, which is precisely.
There's a lot between the two.
All right, well,
There's so much. Oh my gosh, there's so much between there. That's insane. But yes, okay.
the way that you said that just now makes me sound like there was some dark shit going on. Like the way you said that makes me feel like you did some time in the joint.
So I was pretty reserved in high school, right? There's probably reasons why, you don't have photos of me on spring break and some of these other high school activities. Not didn't go to a lot of parties. I hung out with Andrew Conklin, Ben Friend, Brooks, and then obviously Tom. Tom was like a brother to me, and still to this day, if he knocked on my front door, I'd welcome him in. Like he was my brother. And his sister was my sister's parents were my parents, but those were definitely my people. But I didn't say yes enough, probably, if that makes sense. And so, in that haste to get my adult life started, I did experience a lot. So my 20s were a lot of fun. I left UNC Charlotte pretty early, only lasted about a semester with a pretty low GPA. Parents said no more. And I kind of struck out on my own. Moved back to Greensboro for some time, started working in restaurants and working in kitchens. Did that for quite a number of years. And anybody that's ever worked in the restaurant industry, especially in the kitchen as a cook or a bartender, which I eventually was, knows what that lifestyle is like. Lots of crazy nights and fun. Started going to music festivals, really into jam band music. I met my wife at Bonnaroo. I don't know if you know that music festival in Tennessee,
Sure.
but yeah, I went there multiple times. So had a lot of fun. She and I have been together for 20 years now. And she definitely pushed me to be somebody that you can count on. I'll put it that way. I was not somebody that you would rely on very much. And moved up to New Jersey and got my first sales role.
Oh, that was a mistake right there. Why'd you do that? Something stupid like that?
She was worth it. Moved up to New Jersey, got my first sales role, selling advertising for a local newspaper group and media group. Honestly, both my kids were born up there. My oldest is my stepchild, but I've been around since she was 1.5.
Yes. All right.
So
So
we don't
your
really,
dad, no doubt.
yeah.
Yeah, it is hard to accept that was your reality because I didn't see you that way, Jackson. I did not see you going down that kind of path. You were always, I wouldn't say straight and narrow, but you were kind of steady to me. That's how I saw you. So you were just maybe that was true for you at the time, and you just needed to kind of get show some modes. Yeah.
It's probably a decade of unsteady, lots of fun, lots of mind expanding fun. Then I pulled it all together, and then I took a role back in Raleigh, and I think moved back in 2008 after my son was born. Yeah.
What I think is true, you can straighten me out here. You went down a corporate route like many of us have, like I did. And I feel like once you do that, it's can get its hooks in you and that just becomes who you are for the rest of your professional career. Like I know that this is just how it's going to be until I retire. It is very if I again make sure I got my story right. It would be very unusual for you to be that entrenched in this IT executive kind of sales world and then extract yourself to do something that is quite the departure. So can you talk about that transition?
Yeah. So, wife and I were both corporate professionals. I was in IT sales for some pretty large organizations. One of them was, Cisco Systems here in Raleigh. My wife is an IT project manager. She had a similar kind of path that I did. She became a very much a corporate professional, and she ended up getting diagnosed with a cancer. And after her battle with that, she decided she wasn't necessarily ready to go back into it. And I definitely supported that. And working with her and speaking with her after a while, I told her I needed a break. So I also took some time. We made sure the kids were taken care of. There's college funds, and we were moved some money around, and we took some time. And I eventually decided I wanted to just walk away. And so I went back to school and got certified as an EMT. And we're going to be empty nesters. The plan, I think, right now is to sell the house in Holly Springs. We don't need this house for just the two of us, and kind of move closer to the coast and take things down a notch, because it is stressful. You know what the corporate career is like. I don't know about your role and your position or what you've had, but my role managing multi-million-dollar public sector contracts, state level, city and county level contracts, and some national contracts we were managing. It's a lot of money, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, and lots of highs and lows. I mean, I've loved it. I've gotten to travel a ton and really enjoyed some of it. But there's definitely some, like you said, some downsides where it gets its hooks in you and can wear you down. And you experience an event like that. I guess I can't speak for my wife, but even as a caregiver for her for over a year and all the surgeries and everything that she went through, you just take stock. And is it really what drives you anymore? Do you need that level of income? Do you need that level of stress? Is it serving you well anymore? Right. And it had served us well for many, many years. And we were able to raise our kids in this awesome community. They went to a great school and we were able to provide for them in a way that, our parents did for us. Not everyone, but I know your parents and I know your family, and my parents were the same. And that was my main goal when my kids were little. And I feel like I achieved that. So what do I want to do now? And so that's the thought.
How long ago was this?
About since I left my corporate career or my wife's.
Yeah, I'm just, well, I guess I'm just trying to kind of piece together the timeline where and by the way, I didn't know anything. I didn't know any of that you just told me. Thank you for sharing it. If I had known your history, I probably would have done more to stay away from getting you to go through all that.
No, I am very open, Andy. I'm an open book, and so is my wife. If Lori was here, she would tell you the exact same thing. She would tell you she is, in some ways happy that she has gone through that to realize what's really important. She was always extremely career driven, was extremely, probably one of the most important things to her. She was working nights and up early, and it was her driving force. And she would tell you that life did her a favor, right? And
The cancer did her a favor.
it I mean, it maybe not that great of a favor, but it helped her take stock and really define what's important to her.
Mm.
And trying to climb the corporate ladder, making those quotas, achieving the deadlines, getting the bonuses. It just didn't fill her with anything anymore after what she had
Mhm.
gone through.
You kind of took that time to pause and reflect. You could have done any number of things.
Yeah.
What about being an EMT spoke to you?
When I think so when I was still living in Charlotte and I had left school, it was something that I had thought about doing, and I actually signed up for a class. I signed up for a course, and then I met my wife, and then all bets were off, and I was off to New Jersey. It's just something that always stuck with me. I've had some great experiences with healthcare, some really good folks. I've gone through my own struggles, and I've had some really great providers, and I've had some really crummy ones. And I just wanted to, after years of schlepping software and hardware and services, I wanted something that was a little bit more meaningful to me. Charlie James would probably tell you there's a lot of folks that are pretty jaded in that community, and there's dark humor, and that's how people get through it. And there is a lot of that, but most everybody there that's first responders and out as medics and EMTs, they do it because they like serving their community,
Mm.
and that's
Wow.
part of that.
Wow, man,
It,
I got chills. I didn't know any of that. I just think it's really commendable. A lot of the things that you're talking about no longer kind of filling your cup, let's call it.
yeah,
I find it very relatable because you wonder, I really helping people? Am I collecting a check? I think the answer is both, but I don't know if I've really seen that all the way through. So I just commend you for taking a leap and saying, you know what, I'm just gonna go in a new path. I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna do something that gives me a sense of purpose, if it's fair to characterize it that way,
yeah.
right?
And my purpose for many many years was my wife and my kids, right? And my kids are going to be good. They're set up to finish school. Their undergrad is paid for, and felt like it was after Lori went through her experience. And like I said, I've been through my own stuff. I've had multiple sclerosis since 2012, and been very fortunate. Um, uh, Compared to other people that have MS. So how much longer am I going to be able to do something different, right? Because it's got its own downfalls. One day it's gonna bite me, right?
Yeah.
So as long as I can get out there and I can be physical and I can do something else, I'm gonna do it as long as I can.
Man, that's great.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy that you shared that. Thank you, Jackson. One of the, I guess, Questions I was thinking about recently is my daughter is getting ready to start high school in the fall, and I brought myself back to into eighth grade, and I was trying to think about what do you tell your eighth grade self, right? What pearls of wisdom do you have? I wanna take a guess. I wanna guess what you would say to your 8th grade self, and you can tell me how close or how far off I am. Based on everything you just shared, I think you, in your case, would say something to the effect of, "Maybe there's not much to say because all those experiences probably needed to happen the way that they did to get you to the place you are now. So let those chips fall and let young Jackson kinda play out." What do you think?
No, I would tell him some no.
No? Alright, well, then
Well, I
let's
mean,
go.
wait, okay, so there is that thing of like, hey, all these experiences have brought me to where I am, no regrets,
Yeah.
sure. I guess there is that thing. I think we all have certain regrets in our life, and I think that's healthy. You do something you're not proud of, and you regret doing it that way. You said the wrong thing. You did something inappropriate, and being regretful about something is how we grow and we learn, right? And I'm grateful for those experiences, but I think that eighth grade Jackson, I would tell him not to worry so much. Not everybody is really gonna judge you the way you think. And I think as we all go through and progress through those stages through middle school and high school, we all are afraid to wear the wrong thing or say or do the wrong thing. I remember in one of the other podcasts you were talking about when you got your duck head shorts. I had to have those too with that braided leather belt that was ugly as sin. Then I had to have hypercolor stuff, and I wanted to look the right way or say the right thing, and that none of it was important. That all of the majority of the people that we knew, they didn't care. Nobody cares. These things that you think are so consequential really aren't. It's the personal relationships, and I've preached to my kids over the years. It's hard to tell them to take everything just in stride and perspective, to teach perspective. I know everything seems like the end of the world, right? That this one event is going to define the rest of my life, and it's really not. Just
Yeah.
enjoy the moment, enjoy the ride. Don't be so serious. Have a little fun. Allow yourself to step out of your comfort zone. It's all right, kid. Don't don't overthink and analyze everything.
It'd be great to be able to get that message to stick. It kinda reminds me of that old saying that the youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah,
Right, Jackson?
yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I don't think my kids are definitely that way. Um, I've hopefully they've experienced more. They're a little bit more grounded, I think, than I was. So they're allowing themselves to be themselves and having a lot of fun.
Well, that's wonderful. Listen, I have one last question for you, but before I ask it, is there anything else that you wanna get out there? Anything you wanna say to anybody?
No, I can't think of anything to anyone that might be listening. Just that I've really enjoyed the videos and interviews you've had so far. I hope I've done it justice. I don't know really what you were looking for in these, but I would say to anybody to keep doing them, to reach out, share.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Well,
I don't know if this interview we've spoken really enough about Northwest or the school or kind of our experiences or the people. I didn't, mean to make it about me and my adult life, right? It's not really,
well,
it wasn't really
the
my perspective on school and some of that.
well, here's what I would say to that. The feedback that I've got
Right.
by the tens, maybe dozens of people who have seen this is that I think people are responding to the genuine just touch points that people are kind of willing to share. No one has to get overly personal, but when you do have some vulnerability and you're able to kind of be honest about that phase in your life and beyond, it kind of brings it home. And I think you said it very well, where people like connection and kind of feeling that you're still kind of part of that community, even though we all kind of moved on. And Jackson, you're one of the guys who everybody knew and really liked. And I think just hearing you talk is just something that makes people feel good. It certainly has for me. I'll speak for myself. And I know I'm not alone. Just hearing from you talk about yourself has been a lot of fun. I got to tell you.
Okay. All right. So I enjoy hearing about what everybody's doing now. But I do miss hearing some of those stories, maybe because I haven't thought about them anymore, about the different crazy things we used to do, and
Yeah.
just walk in the halls and that crummy gravel parking lot and pushing Adam Hodier's bug to jumpstart it when his battery would
Yeah,
always
that's right.
die. His battery would always
Yeah.
die.
That's because his parents didn't love him enough to buy him a car that worked. That's what that was about.
Dude, his car was the best. I love that bug. Did you not?
That does not I did, but that does not mean his parents loved him, okay? Listen, when we first started talking, you said something about your hair. I think your hair looks pretty good. The question is, don't respond to that. The question is, are you using anywhere near as much Rogaine as I am to keep this shit going? Because I am
No,
all the time.
it's just been getting thinner and thinner. It just keeps creeping, you know.
No.
So,
All right.
you know,
I think you look great.
Why was it right here? It used to be. We used to be here. We used to be here. You know.
Yeah, man. I'm hanging on, but I'm working at it. But I'm doing all the shampoos and shit. Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
gonna be going one day. It's starting to get a little thinner up here than it used to be. You know, I don't know if you remember. I used to wear a ball cap all the time anyway, and still do. You know, I used to love my hats. I don't know if you want to wrap it up, but it's funny all the things that we think about.
I want to thank you for coming on. This has been a lot of fun, man. And you're one of the greats, and I appreciate you. And I'm glad we're still in touch.
Yeah, I'm glad you reached out. I don't know who you got lined up next.
I think I got Brian Peralta next. He's going to show me a map of the Philippines. Thank you, Brian.
Peralta.
All right. Hey, good buddy. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, take care.